Hey folks, today's video is brought to you by SalvageReseller.com. This website allows you to bid live on online salvage auto auctions without a dealer's license. You can register for free or use the 20% off coupon in the description below. Go find your salvage car gem now.
Hey everybody, Tommy here. I've got a great video for you today because I recently had the opportunity to drive two new crossovers back-to-back off-road focus crossovers, the Ford Bronco Sport and the Jeep Compass Trailhawk. They're both about $46,000. They compete head-to-head. In this video, we're going to find out which one has the better all-wheel drive system. Alright everybody, welcome to the TFL slip test. So in this test, we get various wheels stuck on purpose in these rollers to see how the all-wheel drive system and the traction control system work to get us unstuck. It simulates snow and slush and ice and also some off-road terrain, and it's just a great controlled environment test to see how various all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive system performs. Now this first test is called the front wheel slip test. So both front wheels stuck in the rollers, and then the rear wheels are going to have to engage to push us off to get unstuck. So we're starting out in normal mode. We have a number of off-road modes, or GOAT modes. It stands out for goes over any terrain, but we're going to run it in normal mode like you or your mom or your best friend might if they were just getting in the car for the first time on a snowy day. So front wheels are stuck, into neutral, we're settled, into drive, off the brake. So you can see that rear axle was ready to go, pulled us off, no drama, no spinning before the rear axle engaged. So that was a great result. On to the next one. All right. Once again, I'm gonna leave all the switches in automatic, not touching any buttons. But say we're driving the Compass now during a snowstorm in 2023. Starts to get a little slippery. What happens if I approach like a hill? I have to get up. Front wheels are out of traction. Will the rear end engage onto the accelerator? Immediately. And if I wanted that engagement even quicker, there's a four-wheel drive lock button here, which in theory sends wheel speed front and rear more evenly. I can push that, and the results I think are going to be pretty much the same. Yeah, so my point I'm getting at here, guys, is as car people, we know to engage four-wheel drive under slippery situations, snow, ice, off-road. A lot of non-car people don't. And to give an example, my mom was driving at the time a new third-gen 4Runner over a mountain pass in the very early 2000s. There was a baby in the back seat, and she almost crashed off a mountain because she forgot to put it in four-wheel drive. And guess what? That was the last we saw of that 4Runner. She immediately sold it because she just didn't feel safe. And it was her fault, but she didn't realize she had to put in four-wheel drive, or something happened where there was a disconnect. On these modern crossovers, even if you leave them in automatic mode, the computers are gonna split the power front and back as it sees fit, and you're not gonna end up in a really dangerous fishtail situation like she did. That's a really big deal. All right, next up, the diagonal slip test. So the left front and the right rear stuck in the rollers. The other two wheels on the ground are going to have to engage to get us unstuck. Very common off-road, but also very common in the snow in the winter. Imagine you're driving up on a snowy curb. You got wheels spinning. This simulates that test, opposite ends of the car. So once again, starting out in normal mode, as we do with all of our slip tests. We're nice and settled, into drive. Onto the accelerator, just a tiny bit of slipping before that traction control engaged, and we got unstuck. But I want to try a different setting actually, because this Bronco Sport has a number of GOAT modes, and it also has a really trick twin clutch rear differential setup, which can distribute wheel speed left and right. So I'm going to go into, let's go ahead and pick a mode here. We've got 7 of them, and we'd be here all day if I chose all 7, but let's go into rock crawl. It's going to be the most aggressive setting, and let's see what happens. So in the rock crawl mode, it's going to engage the four-wheel drive lock, and it's also going to engage the rear differential locker, and we're going to see if we notice a difference on the standard diagonal slip test. Off the brake, still in reverse, off the brake, onto the accelerator. Okay, well, you can see very impressive. So regardless of the normal mode or that off-road mode, Bronco Sport performed beautifully and got us unstuck. In this new test, we're going to use the power of traction control. Now, traction control is one of these things which gets such a bad rap in the car community because people look at traction control in the viewfinder of track driving, right? Where you're like on the limit, and then all of a sudden big brother says no, shuts down all the fun. But traction control in a vehicle like this Compass, which is a vehicle with primarily open diffs, can have an enormous impact on the off-road capability because the computer has wheel speed sensors and can manually brake wheels individually to send wheel speed to the other end of the car, which in this case has traction. Jeep calls this BLD, brake lock differential. Now, Land Rover was an early pioneer of this in like the late 90s with the Discovery 2. Mercedes, believe it or not, was early on with this as well in the Mercedes ML, and now of course every manufacturer uses it, but it's such a game changer, and I'll show you what I mean. Diagonal slip test, normal mode, no buttons pushed, we're just in drive like, you know, your mom might drive on a daily basis. Onto the accelerator. Wheels start to spin, traction control engages, brakes the wheels that are spinning, forces wheel speed to the wheels on the ground, and we pull ourselves off. Now that did still take a little bit of work, but let me go into the rock mode, one of the more aggressive modes. Watch what happens now. I think we're gonna find a pretty substantial difference with the traction control engagement. Off the brake, nice and settled, onto the accelerator. So you actually hear it. You hear the computer going tick, 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 tick as it starts to send brake pressure to the wheels that are spinning and, you know, pull us right off. What I like about this four-wheel drive system a lot so far is that it's very deliberate. So a lot of systems will just start flailing wheels. You got crazy wheel speed. The traction control is flailing to figure out what to do. It's just grabbing random brakes. The Bronco Sport feels like it's very intentional. Some wheel spin, brakes, sends power right where it needs to go. It's really impressive. Not quite as impressed so far as the Honda Trail Sport system. The IVTM4 is a little bit smarter, it feels like, but we're doing pretty darn well. So going into the rock crawl setting once again, but now I'm going to use trail control, which is similar to the Toyota crawl control system, where I push this little button and then let the computer do the accelerating and the traction control management. So button is engaged. I can set it here with the button on the steering wheel. Yeah, very impressive. So you could see that was not me accelerating, that was me modulating the system using the cruise control button, and it got us unstuck. So pretty impressed so far. Three-wheel slip test. Right front wheels on the ground, starting off in auto mode, just a normal driving around mode. Backing onto the rollers in this Jeep Compass. Into neutral, into drive. Let's see if we can get unstuck without pushing any buttons. You can actually feel and hear the traction control engaging. No, we're not getting unstuck. There's not enough wheel speed being transferred. But let me once again try putting it into an off-road mode. Let me put it into the rock setting. There we go. Rock is engaged just like that. See if that makes a difference. Put the computers into a different mode. Come on, Jeep. So actually we got enough wheel speed transfer there where it squeaked the wheel on the ground and pulled us off. Let's talk about some other pros and cons of these vehicles because they are priced so closely. Once again, 46 grand for both. Now they both use turbocharged 4-cylinder engines, but the Bronco Sport has something like 50 more horsepower than the Jeep Compass. And so far, as we've seen, the all-wheel drive system is performing better on the Ford than the Jeep. It's also worth noting that the Bronco Sport, in my opinion, has a nicer interior, but worse technology. The new sync system in the Jeep is really very good. Let me know in the comments section below, based on what you've seen so far, which one did you buy? Alright guys, welcome to the Onyx Off-Road Andre's Pit course. Onyx Off-Road is the official off-road navigation software of TFL. Great app, check them out. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Bronco Sport. So, the Heritage Edition comes in some cool colors. It comes with these white steel designed wheels that are actually aluminum. So they look like steelies, but they're actually made out of aluminum and then painted white. It's got the white roof, it's got the white grille, and then this one is the limited version. They're building 1,966 of them for 2023. 1966, the year the Bronco came out, and it's very expensive, this version, 46 grand. Now you can get the Heritage in the mid-30s, much more reasonable, but you don't get some of the really cool off-road goodies like the tires and the bash plates. This one's got recovery hooks, we got that really cool twin clutch rear differential. This limited version has the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, 250 horsepower, a lot of horsepower, over 270 pound-feet of torque. Now we're going through the pit section or the trenches section of Andre's Pit. These are deep grooves cut into the earth at offset angles, and we're gonna get the vehicle off kilter on 2 wheels on purpose, and we're starting out in normal mode. Let's see how the all-wheel drive system reacts just in the standard normal mode. So wheels are spinning, just a little bit of gas, start lifting up tires, but I'm gonna take this super slow on purpose. This is not a test of how quick I can get up trenches. It's supposed to be hard on purpose to test the limits of the system. So off kilter completely. Very, very impressive. Keep in mind, this is just in the normal mode. I haven't even engaged a goat mode. But that's kind of my big beef with the goat modes, is that these computers have gotten so smart nowadays where there's not really that much of an advantage to going to the mud and sand or the rock program. You really don't even need to use these buttons because it's all computer controlled anyways. A little bit of work up here at the top when it got steep. But I mean, it's just like walk right up it. And a lot of crossovers, even in this class, the compact crossover class, I've driven Toyotas and CRVs, and they the RAV4, for example, and they have to think about that. You can feel the computer working hard to grab brakes, force wheel speed to and fro. There's a lot going on. But in the Bronco Sport, even in the normal mode, whoosh, walk straight up it. And that's what I mean. You know, it doesn't have the ground clearance or the approach or departure of the full-size Bronco, but this car is more comfortable to drive every single day. It's much more like driving a car than a truck, and it will go up places you wouldn't believe. It will get you to the cool campsites. So these things are really underrated. I'm not sure I'd pay 46 for this one, even though I do like the brown leather, and this Yellowstone color is very cool. Anyway, let's go into the rock crawl. We're gonna go to the crazy mode. That's gonna engage the 4-wheel drive lock. That's gonna equal the wheel speed split front to back. It's gonna engage the rear diff lock too, and we'll see if that makes a noticeable difference. But even in the normal mode, it was such an easy process. I just think that in this mode, we're gonna have slightly less slippage of the tires. So once again, off kilter. Yeah, you can see with that rear diff engaged, jeez, that's pretty impressive. You know, people don't like these clutch-based systems because they like, oh, that's not a true locker. But for most people, you know, it's a set it and forget it system. I mean, and the amount of torque being applied to those clutches right now to keep them locked up will blow your mind. So they're sinking a little bit harder than a typical locker might, but even still, I mean, that's 2 miles an hour up here. So steep, something's rolling around in the trunk there. That's impressive. What a great little vehicle. It really is amazing where a unibody independent suspension on all 4-corner crossover will go. Even in the normal mode, even without touching any buttons. Now, I can't wait. I'd love to test the base Bronco without this trick all-wheel drive system and the little 3-cylinder to see how that does. If one of you guys out there has one you'd like to loan me for the day, send me an email, info@tflcar.com. We'd love to run it through this test, but this top spec model, pretty ace. All right, welcome to the Jeep Compass. Same test through Andre's Pit, running the trenches course. So running trenches, same exact course. I'm gonna start out in auto mode, not pushing any buttons, not engaging any settings, no knobs being twisted. I'm just gonna try it in good old-fashioned automatic, and let's see what happens. So, and now we'll have to rely on the electronic features to get us unstuck. There you go. All right, so you can see how that worked, where we picked up corners in both vehicles, and you can see that the traction control engaged in the new Jeep Compass. Once again, still in auto mode. Turbo spooling up there, delivering the torque that I needed to. Definitely very tippy. Park Sense is not enjoying this because the sensors are dusty. Come on, Jeep. Come on, you can hear the traction control thinking about what to do. And last little bit. Okay, so we made it up, but let's try that same obstacle once again in rock mode. So in rock mode, it's going to engage the four-wheel drive lock, which is going to essentially try to lock the front of your drive shaft, the power takeoff unit in the front, but tries to lock the front of your wheels at similar speeds. And then I'm going to go engage four-wheel drive low. This drives me crazy on these cars. It's not a true four-wheel drive low. In this Compass, four-wheel drive low essentially just locks you in first gear in high range, which is not very useful in my opinion. I can just do that manually with the shifter here. I don't need to push a button, but I've engaged the rock mode, the rock programming, the most aggressive off-road mode. Let's see if the torque transfer and the power delivery is different now. So first obstacle, picking up that wheel. You can actually hear a difference as well as see a difference. It is much more aggressive at braking spinning wheels. Okay, next obstacle. Once again, look at that. Look at that. Picking up wheels high into the air. Traction control system is working though. We're working that system. We're using the capability. We're just finessing our way up this hill now. Staying deep in the trenches. It's getting steep here. Spooling up that turbocharged engine. And there you have it. All right. So in the off-road mode there, it made it a lot easier to complete that obstacle. We did it in the auto setting, but it was a lot easier in this. Well guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's been useful in understanding the capabilities and the differences between these two cars. Personally, I find the Bronco Sport to be more impressive off-road, especially with that twin clutch rear differential, which is just so impressive. As always, this has been Tommy. We'll see you on the next video.